I'm about to share a wild and unbelievable story that you won't soon forget, a story about outrageous demands, family meltdowns, and social media showdowns. It all started when a spoiled, self-centered sister demanded that I give them my baby as a 30th birthday gift. Yes, you read that right, my own baby was being demanded as a present. I pretended to agree at first, only to later expose, in real time on social media, the sheer stupidity and immaturity of this person. If you've ever experienced bizarre family antics or outrageous requests, I hope you'll relate to my situation. And hey, if you enjoy stories like these, please remember to subscribe, like, and share this video for the support of my channel. You won't want to miss what comes next. Let me set the stage with some background on the key players in this drama. My mother-in-law, whom I refer to as Mill, and my sister-in-law, or SIL, are the epitome of entitlement and drama. SIL is a 29-year-old single woman, a spoiled brat in every sense, whose demands know no limits. I'm 37, happily married for 12 years to my 40-year-old husband, and together we've raised 2 wonderful kids, a 9-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter. Despite having what many would call a perfect marriage, touch wood. My real agony comes from dealing with my overly dramatic Mill and my perpetually pampered SIL, who seem determined to complicate my life at every turn. Before I dive deeper into the chaotic details of my predicament, let me paint you a vivid picture of Mill and SIL. They're like the high-class socialites straight out of a soap opera, constantly flitting from one salon or massage parlor to the next in the afternoon. And then heading out in the evening to trendy bars with a gaggle of other equally useless women, all busy gossiping and dishing out drama. These women live in their own delusional worlds, with no interest in working. Their days revolve solely around shopping sprees and endless chatter. Meanwhile, my husband, whom I sometimes call Phil, is busy hustling and making money. In our household, he's practically reduced to a cash cow, barely present aside from writing endless checks to satisfy every demand that these women conjure up. There's even a rumor swirling that he has a mistress, and that Mill is well aware of it, allowing him to keep fulfilling their every whim without a hitch. Honestly, no sane man would ever let this continue, yet here we are, stuck in the middle of Mill and SIL's unyielding stupidity. Then came the fateful day that set off this entire chain of events. Last week, Mill called me up and insisted on meeting for lunch on a random Wednesday afternoon. I was tempted to decline outright, but it had been ages since she'd even bothered to see me, so I negotiated for dinner instead. Of course, she had her own ideas. By evening, she'd be out with her girlfriends at some noisy gaming parlor, so we finally agreed to meet on a Saturday afternoon. I arrived in my usual, comfortable outfit, only to be stunned when Mill appeared in an impossibly shimmery black dress, a choice more befitting a glamorous night out than an afternoon lunch. And, as if that weren't enough, she wasted no time criticizing my outfit and even my choice of scents. Once the small talk ended, she launched into the heart of the absurdity. She asked what gift we were planning for SIL's upcoming 30th birthday. I was completely thrown off, noting that SIL's 29th birthday had only been a couple of months ago. With a laugh, she explained that planning in advance was necessary. Apparently, SIL had been so upset last time over a meager gift, normal, $250 dress rather than a premium Zara number with a matching sapphire neckpiece, that this year, nothing less than perfection would do. And here came the bombshell. To avoid upsetting her, Mill had concocted the perfect present, a baby. Yes, she literally wanted me to get pregnant and then gift the baby to SIL, this entitled princess. I had to ask her several times, incredulously confirming that she truly meant it. I want you to have a baby and present it to Stacy as her 30th birthday gift, she insisted. I was utterly flabbergasted. How on earth could anyone imagine gifting a human being as a birthday present? I stood up, seethed with anger, and declared that I owed no one a baby. I'm not some baby-making machine designed to fulfill their every whim. I stormed out of the restaurant in a fury. On my way home, I made a brief stop to pick up my son from a friend's place. When I finally reached home, my husband immediately asked what had happened with Mill. I recounted the absurd lunch meeting and her ludicrous demand. At first, he thought I was joking. He even burst into laughter, rolling on the floor. But when I insisted that Mill wanted his child to be given as a gift to his sister, his laughter turned to horror. "What on earth is she even smoking?" he exclaimed. I made it perfectly clear, there was absolutely no way I was going to accept such a demand. My husband reassured me, firmly stating that we were done with the idea of having any more children, and certainly not handing one over to Stacy as a gift. The very next day, a lazy Sunday, my husband and I were simply lounging on our couch, enjoying our rare day off. Suddenly, Mill showed up unannounced at our door. I told her I was tired and needed some rest, intent on heading to my room. But Mill wouldn't let me go without a word, she stopped me and said she was there to apologize for what had happened the day before, urging me to hear her out. I felt a glimmer of relief, thinking that maybe she had finally come to her senses. She began by apologizing for not providing enough context for her request, explaining that Stacy was turning 30 next year and had been single for so long that it was driving her absolutely crazy. According to Mill, Stacy needed a distraction in life, and nothing would keep her happy like having a baby. I couldn't help but interject, a baby is a full-grown human being, not some fluffy, cotton candy treat meant to distract a spoiled brat. If Stacy needed purpose, why doesn't she get a job or try to change her ways? But of course, she's a princess, she doesn't work, doesn't lift a finger at home, and still lives with her in-laws. Mill went on, describing Stacy's complete lack of responsibility. She is so delicate that even the thought of doing household chores would risk chipping her perfectly manicured nails. Her room is still painted in the same pink as when she was 14, and she owns an endless supply of pink dresses. In her world, money appears on her card like magic, and she spends it without a thought. I couldn't help but ask, if Stacy is so desperate for a baby, why doesn't she adopt one? Mill laughed dismissively and told me not to be lazy. After all, it had been far too long since I'd been pregnant, so it was time to get the machinery back into action. She argued that adopting a baby was too risky because who knows what hereditary diseases might run in someone else's family? With us, everything was safe, she insisted. At this point, I gave my husband a pleading look, silently asking if he could say something. He laughed and remarked that Mill was being ridiculously arrogant, adding that between his demanding career and numerous motherly duties, he couldn't possibly be expected to have another child. He also pointed out how utterly bizarre it would sound if his own brother turned out to be the father of his child. Mill, undeterred, shot back instantly, why not? Maria's Dill is a surrogate for Maria's daughter, so what's the big deal if your wife does the same for Stacy? I was stunned. Wait a minute, I thought, that was a case of surrogacy, a medical necessity because Maria's daughter couldn't conceive, whereas in our situation, it's just an outrageous demand to turn us into a baby-making machine. My husband then suggested that Stacy should find a man of her own, settle down, and start her own family instead of complicating our lives further. Mill began to sob, complaining that her little girl had tried repeatedly to find a man, but that nowadays, men were simply too sick to appreciate her daughter. Pointing at me, she said, "You're a lucky woman to have my son, but darling, not everyone is as fortunate. Stacy can't be with just any ordinary man, she deserves someone who treats her like royalty." I couldn't help but retort sarcastically, "Oh, of course, Stacy dumped her last man because he didn't buy her an outrageously expensive Gucci bag." Mill tried to justify her pampered princess, but I was overwhelmed by disgust. Standing up once more, I declared in no uncertain terms that I was done discussing this absurdity and that we would never have a baby for Stacy as a birthday present. Later that day, my husband came into the bedroom, wrapped me in a comforting hug, and asked what exactly he'd said to his mother. He explained that he'd made it clear, we were not going to have any more children, and they needed to stop pestering us. Mill, of course, stormed out of the house in a fit of anger. I was completely beside myself with frustration, so much so that I felt like banging my head against a wall to knock some sense into them. I updated everyone, "Can you believe the ridiculous situation I'm facing?" The comments on my post were as hilarious as they were validating. Many agreed that both SIL and Mill were clearly in need of a serious brain check. Maybe their brains were buried under all that makeup, as one comment jokingly put it. Normally, after our last conversation, any rational person would have backed off. But here I was, stuck with two maniacs, first Mill, and now SIL had joined the fray, and she was at least 100 times harder to reason with because logic simply flew right over her head. A week later, on the following Sunday, I braced myself for yet another showdown, but nothing could have prepared me for what came next. Out of nowhere, Mill reappeared with her darling little princess, as if they had sworn an oath to ruin my day off. This time, Stacy arrived wearing a skirt and a comfy blouse, the first time I had ever seen her dressed casually, without her trademark teeny, skin-tight clothes. However, every detail about her appearance was still meticulously put together, her hair was perfectly styled, and her nails were impeccably done. Mill pointed out with a satisfied smile, "Do you see? Stacy's already starting to dress like a mommy." Apparently, the change in her wardrobe was supposed to signal that she was ready to be a mother. Stacy smirked and declared, "I'm in, no matter what, I'll do whatever I want," before rushing over to hug her big brother as if they hadn't seen each other in ages. Remember, she still behaves like a 14-year-old cutie pie, shrieking for attention as if everyone were miles away. Then, unexpectedly, she blurted out, "When is the good news coming?" My husband, feigning ignorance, asked, "What good news?" With a mischievous smirk, she replied, I know you want to give me your baby as a surprise gift on my 30th birthday, but now, Mom's a spoiler, and I know your plan. I'm so excited to be a mommy of a cute little girl, I've already started shopping for her. Just as things were about to spiral further, my husband intervened. Thank goodness he did, because I was moments away from losing it completely. He firmly stated, "That's not true, we're not having any baby. Forget about any gift, ever." But Stacy, in her delusional optimism, insisted that he was just trying to hide the surprise. When she finally realized that no baby was coming, she exploded, accusing me of always being cruel and demanding, "Come on, go. Get me a cute little baby doll." I couldn't help but retort sharply, "Stacy, we're not running a baby supply business where you simply order a cute baby girl on demand. Do you even know how babies are made?" Despite her initial blabbering about how she had always dreamed of having a baby girl, claiming that she had so much love to give that the baby would be the luckiest ever, raised to be a confident and successful woman, I had already mentally checked out. I listened as she rambled on, completely oblivious to the impracticality of her demands. I couldn't help but think of all the reasons why she wasn't in her right mind. She didn't even understand that the gender of a baby isn't something you can pick like choosing a lipstick shade, nor did she grasp the realities of newborn care. Let's not forget that this same woman, when my children were infants, would shoo them away, fearful that they might spit on her or ruin her immaculate hair and clothes. Even now, she refuses to let my daughter come near her, terrified that a little stray hair or nail might be damaged. How, I wondered, could this pampered princess ever be expected to change a diaper or swaddle a baby in the middle of a sleepless night? And honestly, I couldn't fathom enduring another grueling 9 months of pregnancy and the agony of childbirth just to hand over my child to someone who would inevitably turn out to be a miniature version of her entitled self. Stacy continued to prattle on about how she would be the best mother ever, but I'd already reached my breaking point. Suddenly, I stood up and said, "Listen, Stacy, I know you've always hated me, and frankly, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to have a baby for you. Do you understand, or should I write it down for you? Because it looks like you and your mother have not only lost your hearing but your brains as well." My husband motioned for me to take it easy, but I was far too enraged by their incessant craziness. I warned them in no uncertain terms that if they continued to pester me, I would block them from my house. With that, I stormed off to my room and slammed the door behind me. In that moment, I wasn't sure if I'd overstepped my bounds, but honestly, I had no words to adequately describe the sheer toxicity they radiated. Later, my husband quietly mentioned that his mom and sister had even gone as far as calling him a simp man, and then left. I couldn't care less what they said. Sometimes, a man needs to stop being so nice to everyone. The following Sunday, I expected another explosive confrontation, but, to my surprise, things were quiet. I relished that silence, hoping that the nuisance had finally come to an end. However, I soon learned that while our doorstep was peaceful, the internet was ablaze with activity. I discovered that Stacy had taken to social media, launching a full-scale defamation campaign against me. According to her, I was depriving her of her chance to be a mother. Now, Stacy calls herself a beauty expert and posts makeup tutorials, and while she does have a respectable following, I lead a busy life with 2 kids and a real job, so I'm not exactly glued to my phone all day. In her online posts, Stacy claimed that her own brother was on board with the idea of having a baby for her. She argued that she had always wanted to be a mother but, being single, had no luck with adoption, which, by the way, is a complete lie because neither she nor anyone else even bothered to try adoption. Even if they had, I'm pretty sure she wouldn't have made it through the stringent adoption interview process. Stacy went on to paint a picture that made me look like the villain, saying I was denying her a baby simply because she was unmarried and because of my so-called conservative and rudimentary beliefs. In my head, I wanted to shout that I was refusing simply because she's utterly foolish. I only learned about her online hate campaign when my husband's aunt called, asking why I was doing this to Stacy. That's when I read every single post and message. I had to laugh a little, how absurd that her silly friends and relatives were all trying to portray me as the bad guy. Even if there were any grain of truth to their claims, it's my body, and I have every right to say no. Realizing that her silence was being used against me, my friends and I hatched a plan to make Stacy taste her own medicine. I called her up and, with a tone dripping in feigned concern, said, "I'm deeply troubled by the online campaign you're running against me. It's really tarnishing my reputation. I'm actually considering bearing a child for you." I wasn't doing it for her approval, I just wanted to put her in her place. I told her, "Stacy, why don't you come over so we can discuss a few things before we move forward?" Overjoyed at what she perceived as a victory, she eagerly came to my house. Once she arrived, I announced on a live stream that I had apparently agreed to her demands, and that we were about to reveal to everyone that she was going to have a baby soon. This move, I claimed, would not only counteract the negative reviews but also boost her watch time, given her status as a social media enthusiast. Of course, she agreed immediately. We went live, and I boldly proclaimed, I have agreed to have a baby for Stacy, so let's take some questions for the would-be mama. Stacy was practically glowing with triumph, completely oblivious to the trap she'd just walked into. I asked her, so, Stacy, what are your plans for the baby? She giggled and launched into a long-winded rant. Oh, I'm so excited to be a mama to a baby girl. I've already started shopping for her. I'm going to make her look like a superstar from day one. She'll never be seen without makeup, always perfectly dressed and presentable. I deliberately didn't clarify that no one could guarantee a baby girl, letting the audience fill in the blanks with educated guesses. Her answer, as expected, rubbed many viewers the wrong way, and the live chat soon filled with negative comments and trolls. But Stacy was too busy basking in her self-proclaimed glory to notice. I then teased her, that's so sweet, Stacy, but what are you going to do when the baby gets fussy and starts crying? How are you going to handle that? She smirked and said, well, the girls in our family don't cry, do they? I mean, I've never seen your daughter cry, she's always impeccably dressed and calm. I countered, that's because you've only seen her for a brief moment. Behind every well-dressed baby, there are hours of a mom fighting off tears. Unfazed, she replied, then you can take care of the crying. Just bring the baby to me whenever she cries, and once she stops, I'll dress her up in cute frilly dresses with matching necklaces, tiaras, and even a bit of makeup. I couldn't stop laughing and said, Stacy, babies cry day and night, are you seriously saying you'll swap the baby back and forth with me every time she fusses? She yelled back, yeah, that's right, why not? I couldn't hold it in any longer and gave an evil laugh. Enraged, she accused me of trying to scare her off, boasting that she could handle it on her own, claiming, I'm so much better than you. I have thousands of followers and way better dressing sense. As she ranted, she abruptly ended the live video, fuming that I had grilled her in front of everyone. Little did she know the damage that video would inflict. Within hours, her own followers were tagging and trolling her relentlessly, questioning how someone with such a low IQ could even exist on this planet. One comment even read, forget about being a mother, this woman shouldn't be allowed to roam the streets alone. After this online battle erupted, Mill called me again, hoping to say something. Before she could open her mouth, I warned, before you utter a single word, know that you're being recorded, and I won't hesitate to post our conversation publicly. My exasperated, oh my god, must have been heard through the phone because she hung up immediately and never called back. I didn't receive another call from the spoiled princess either. I had informed Mill that I would record all our communications and that if they ever tried to cause further trouble at my house, every conversation would be captured. It felt so satisfying to finally put them in their place. My husband and I are still laughing while reading the troll comments on the sister-in-law's video. It's just too hilarious. Now, let me switch gears and tell you about another outrageous chapter in my life, a second story that still makes my blood boil. This one involves my girlfriend, who cheated on me with my very own cousin. Yes, you heard that right. I caught my girlfriend in the act, kicked her out of our apartment, exposed their affair to all our friends and family, and now she's disappeared without a trace. We had been together for 3 years, and I truly believed she was the one, so much so that I even planned on marrying her. But everything came crashing down when I discovered that she had been unfaithful with my cousin. Our story began 3 years ago at a nightclub. She was, without exaggeration, the hottest woman in the room. I never thought I stood a chance, but I decided to take a shot anyway, and surprisingly, she was interested. We went out the very next day and quickly fell in love. About a year and a half into our relationship, she moved into my apartment, a move that seemed perfectly natural because I was utterly head over heels in love with her. Around the same time, my cousin, who had previously been living down south, accepted a job in New York, where I also lived. I was thrilled to have family nearby and even helped arrange a decent apartment for him through my building manager, since he couldn't come to the city to look for one himself. We had always been good friends, spending hours playing online games together in our youth. I looked forward to the prospect of having him close by, and we even started hanging out regularly. He would often visit our apartment to enjoy my gaming setup. He never hesitated to mention that he found my girlfriend insanely attractive. Being my cousin, I initially laughed it off, thinking nothing of it. I never suspected anything unusual. She never sat next to him, they barely spoke, and they always seemed to respect each other's personal space. Then, a few months after my cousin moved in, I was at a cafe with a friend. I expected to meet just one of my old college buddies, but to my utter shock, my cousin showed up accompanied by his new girlfriend. What really took me aback was that his girlfriend turned out to be a work friend of my girlfriend, someone we had even tried to set up together at a party, though we never believed they'd really hit it off. Apparently, they had been keeping their relationship low-key to avoid any unnecessary pressure. Finding it ironic, I decided to surprise my girlfriend with this good news, thinking she'd be excited. I texted her, urging her to come to the cafe because there was a surprise waiting for her. Her response came quickly. She claimed she couldn't come because she was hanging out with a friend. But when I looked up, I saw that the friend was sitting right across from me at the cafe. Clearly, she was lying about her whereabouts, and I couldn't understand why. Not wanting to raise suspicion among my own friends, I ended up telling them a fabricated story, that my girlfriend had a migraine and needed me to pick up some medication. I left the cafe and hurried home, only to find that she was nowhere there. Yet, scattered around the room were signs that she had been there recently, makeup on the bed, several outfits she'd apparently tried on. My heart sank, and I felt a rising sense of dread that something was very wrong. I decided to confront my cousin. I walked down the hall to his door. Despite loud music playing in the background, I knocked persistently until he finally answered. He tried to laugh it off, saying he had company and that he'd join me later. At that moment, I still hadn't pieced together that my girlfriend was cheating with him. It wasn't until I noticed a birthday shirt I'd bought for her draped over the arm of a couch behind him that I started to suspect something was off. I kept my cool, nodded silently, and went back to my apartment. Once home, my anxiety spiked. I searched for more evidence of infidelity. I eventually took the heartbreaking step of going through her laptop and sifting through her Facebook messages with my cousin. What I found broke my heart completely. My cousin had messaged her, asking what it was about me that she liked so much. She had replied that she thought I was funny and had a good personality, but then he responded that I didn't seem like her type, that he was her type. Their messages were flirty, and at one point, she even sent him a classic, just got out of the shower, text, followed by several sexually charged messages and provocative photos. Earlier that same day, my cousin had sent her a message saying he couldn't stop thinking about her and that he needed to be with her. He even told her to come up with an excuse to go to his apartment, and she did. In that moment, I knew it was over. I resolved then that I would cut off my cousin for good, but I also decided that I was going to expose their little tryst to everyone I knew. I took screenshots of every incriminating conversation and sent them to myself for safekeeping, knowing that if my girlfriend ever tried to deny it, I'd have all the evidence. Fortunately, the lease for our apartment was in my name alone, which meant I had every right to kick her out. A few hours later, when she returned home, I confronted her immediately and told her to leave. She was confused and tried to protest, but I calmly informed her that I knew all about her affair with my cousin and that she had 48 hours to vacate the apartment, or I would file a legal complaint. I left that night, ignoring the dozens of calls from both her and my cousin that followed. Determined to get everyone on my side, I created a group chat with all my relatives and recounted every detail of what had happened. The response was overwhelming. Everyone was shocked and deeply disappointed in my cousin, with even his own parents apologizing profusely in the chat, despite not being directly involved. Soon after, I received a barrage of messages from my cousin calling me a coward and claiming that other family members were calling him a scumbag. Frankly, I didn't care. He was a scumbag through and through. Since my girlfriend and I shared many mutual friends, I also brought them into a group chat and explained the entire sordid affair. They were all utterly shocked, and many sided with me. A couple of the women even mentioned that my girlfriend had tried calling them to ask for a place to stay, but they refused because they couldn't believe she'd done such a thing. 2 days later, I returned to find that my girlfriend had disappeared from the apartment. I had no clue where she'd gone until I later learned she had taken refuge with my cousin. Yet, as fate would have it, their clashing personalities led to her being kicked out after just a week. At that point, I lost all contact with her and learned a harsh lesson: you can never fully trust anyone, not even family. Every twist and turn in these stories has left me reeling, and I can only hope that sharing them will serve as a cautionary tale for anyone facing similarly outrageous family drama or personal betrayal. Thank you for sticking with me through these unbelievable events. Remember to subscribe, like, and share this video if you enjoyed the story and want more real-life drama. Your support means the world to me.